Good morning, third graders, and happy Monday. Miss McLean here. Today we're going to be doing lesson 5.6, which is all about solving word problems with extra information, hidden information, or sometimes word problems don't have enough information. So it's really about reading the problems and then deciding what are we looking for. Are some pieces needed to solve a problem? Are some extra information that we don't need? Or what information we do need that we don't have. So we're going to start with solving problems with extra information. It says read each problem, cross out any extra information, then solve. So let's go ahead and read this problem. It says Emma solved 9 math problems and answered 7 reading questions. Her sister solved 8 math problems. How many math problems did they solve in all? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to underline the question that they're asking me, because that is what I'm solving for. So how many math problems did they solve in all? One more time, it says Emma solved 9 math problems. Okay, I see the word math problems. I know that I'm looking for how many math problems they solved. And answered 7 reading questions. Her sister solved 8 math problems. Again, we're going to cross out the information that we don't need. So we are looking for how many math problems did they solve in all. I only need the math problems. I don't need to know how many reading questions they answered. So I'm going to go ahead and cross out this part because that is not what my question is asking me to do. And from here, if I want to know how many math problems they solved in all, I'm just going to add 9 plus 8. And I know that is 17 math problems. And you might be thinking, why is this important? Why are we practicing crossing out information? Sometimes in real life, you go to the grocery store and you buy a bunch of things. Sometimes, if you buy a bunch of candy, your mom might ask you, how much money did you spend on your Twix and chocolate bars? If you bought Twix, chocolate bars, and gummy worms, you don't need to add the gummy worms in there. You only need to know about the Twix and chocolate bars. Okay, so sometimes there are situations when you don't need to add everything, but just some things, or subtract or multiply. Okay, let's try this next one. It says Mark has 6 shirts and 5 pairs of pants. Today his aunt gave him 4 more shirts and another pair of pants. How many shirts does he have now? So again, I'm going to underline my question, and I'm looking for how many shirts he has now. So I'm going to go back and reread it because I don't really remember. Mark has 6 shirts and 5 pairs of pants. I'm not looking for pairs of pants, so I'm going to go ahead and cross that out. Today his aunt gave him 4 more shirts and another pair of pants. I don't need to know the pants. I only want the shirts. So Mark had 6 shirts and today his aunt gave him 4 more. So if I'm doing this as a math mountain, I can say he has 6 shirts, his aunt gave him 4 more, and I'm going to have 10 shirts in all. Okay, let's try that with one more. A parking lot had 179 cars and 95 trucks. Then 85 cars left the lot. How many cars are in the parking lot now? So I'm going to underline my question. How many cars are in the parking lot now? So a parking lot had 179 cars and 95 trucks. And you need to think, am I looking for cars or trucks? I don't need to know the trucks. I'm going to cross that out because that's not important to me. Then 85 cars left the lot. So there were 179 cars, 85 left. So I can say 179 minus 85, and that will give me 94 cars that are left in the lot. Okay, so we're practicing crossing out information that we don't need. Now we're going to talk about problems that have hidden information. So we just talked about extra information that we don't need. Now we're looking for hidden information. So read each problem, circle the hidden information, then solve. Samuel had 16 horseshoes in the shed yesterday. Today he put a new set of horseshoes on his horse, Betsy. How many horseshoes are left in the shed? Okay, I'm gonna underline my question. How many horseshoes are left in the shed? So I'm looking for horseshoes here. So he had 16 horseshoes yesterday. And today he put a whole new set of horseshoes on his horse, Betsy. How many shoes are left in the shed? So if we think about this, the hidden information is his horse, Betsy. Okay? And we're gonna say this because a horse has how many hooves? If I'm thinking about, I'm so sorry, this is gonna be my horse. Is it gonna be beautiful? No, and in fact, it looks like a cat, so I apologize. But if this is my horse, it has 4 legs. Oh my gosh, that does look like a cat. Oh well, this is a horse, okay? On each foot, there are 4 horseshoes. So if there's 16 horseshoes in the shed yesterday, and he takes a pair out to put on his horse Betsy, I am saying 16 minus 4, because one set of horseshoes is for each of the 4 hooves, or like little feet on a horse. So then I'm gonna be left with 12 horseshoes in the shed. So when it talks about hidden information, it's kind of using these key words. We have to know how many feet are on a horse. We have to know how many days are in a week. And that is gonna help us solve the problem. Because if we just look at it and see that there's only one number, sometimes we can get freaked out. But it's hidden in the word problem. So it's really important to underline your question, circle what you know, and then go from there. Okay, so it takes a lot of rereading. All right, let's try. Maya is going on a vacation with her family for a week and 3 days. How many days will she be on vacation? So how many days will she be on vacation? I know she's going for a week and 3 days. 1 week equals 7 days. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I can say a week and 3 days is 7 plus 3 equals 10 days. Okay. Julie bought a dozen eggs at the market. She gave 3 of them to Serge. How many eggs does Julie have left? I'm gonna underline my question. How many eggs does Julie have left? That's what I'm looking for. And I know that she bought a dozen eggs at the market, and she gave 3 to Serge. And you might be wondering, well, I don't really know how much a dozen is. If you buy a dozen eggs or a dozen donuts from the store, that is 12. So a dozen means 12. So she bought 12 eggs at the market, and she gave 3 to Serge. So she has 9 eggs left over. The last part that we're going to talk about is solving word problems with not enough information. So sometimes word problems don't have enough information to actually write an equation and solve it, which can be really, really tricky. Because sometimes you might read a problem and say, I don't know, I need more information. They're not giving me enough. So if I said, hey mom, I'm going to the store, I'm gonna buy 7 strawberries and some oranges. How many pieces of fruit do you think I'm gonna come back with? She's not gonna know because I'm not telling her how many oranges I have. I'm only telling her the amount of strawberries. So we have to read these super carefully, and we're gonna tell what information we need to know to solve the problem. So Sarah bought 8 bananas at the fruit market. Oh, I used fruit too. She put them in a bowl with some oranges. How many pieces of fruit are in the bowl? So I'm looking for how many pieces are in the bowl. So normally I would say 8 plus how many oranges there are, and then I could get my answer. But I don't know how many oranges there are. So I need to know how many oranges there are, and then I can solve the problem. But unless I know that, then I can't solve the problem because I don't have that information. Okay, let's skip to 13. So let's do Meg bought 3 mystery books and put them on the shelf with her other mystery books. How many mystery books are now on the shelf? So they want to know how many mystery books are on the shelf. So she bought 3 mystery books and put them on the shelf with her other mystery books. And I don't know how many other mystery books she had. So I can't, until I find out how many books she already had, I can't come up with an answer. So I need to know how many mystery books she already had. Until I know that, I can't figure it out. Our school has 5 soccer balls, 6 basketballs, and 4 footballs. Today, some of the footballs were lost. How many balls does the school have now? So there's a lot of information here. We're looking for how many balls does the school have now? So they had 5 soccer balls, 6 basketballs, and 4 footballs. So I can add those. 5 plus 6 plus 4 equals 15 balls. And today some of the footballs were lost. So I take my total and I don't know how many footballs were lost. So can I figure out how many they have now? No, I can't figure it out because I don't know how many footballs were lost. So I need to know how many footballs were lost. Until I figure that out, I can't solve the problem. So it's really, really tricky with these ones. You have to make sure that you are reading your problem carefully. And so you might say, okay, I know I need to read my problems carefully. I know I need to be careful, but take it step by step. So first start with underlining your question. Look at what you already know. And then figure out, okay, what do I need to figure out to solve this problem? How many balls does the school have now? I need to know how many of the footballs that were lost. Okay, these ones can be a little bit tricky, so take it step by step, reread your problem, and underline your question. Okay, on this page they're telling us if more information is needed, rewrite the problem to include the necessary information. So we're still looking for what we don't know, but we are going to rewrite it. So Leah began fishing at 2 in the afternoon. She stopped at dinner time. How many hours did Leah fish? So if we want to figure out how many hours she has fished for, she started at 2 in the afternoon, so 2 o'clock p.m. And let's say dinner time is at 6 o'clock. We don't know exactly when her dinner time is, but let's say it's 6 o'clock. If I'm going from, if I draw a clock, my clock is a little funky. So I'm at, this is 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If I'm at 2 o'clock over here, and she stops fishing at 6 o'clock, how many hours have passed? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hours that have passed, okay? So we could solve it that way. So let's say, to rewrite our problem, Leah began fishing at 2 p.m. She stopped fishing at, and we're going to say 6 p.m. because that is our new information. How many hours did Leah fish? So now we have just created a problem that we can now solve. Without knowing what time she stopped, we couldn't have solved the problem. Let's go ahead and do this one, number 17. So the kitchen store sold 532 pans and 294 pots. Then some pans were returned. How many pans were not returned? Okay, so the kitchen store sold 532 pans and 294 pots. But they're asking me how many pans were not returned. I don't need to know anything about pots. They're not asking me that. So the kitchen store sold 532 pans, and then some pans were returned. We can make up a number. So let's say, until I figure out how many pans were returned, I can't figure out how many were not returned. So let's say, I'm just gonna say 92 pans were returned. So let's see if we can do it now. Okay, so I rewrote it as the kitchen store sold 532 pans. 92 pans were returned. How many pans were not returned? Now I can go ahead and figure it out. So 532 minus 92. I'm gonna separate my ones, my tens, and my hundreds. So 2 minus 2 is 0. 3 take away 9, I can't do that, so I'm gonna go regroup from my hundreds. Make this a 13. 13 minus 9 is 4. 4 minus nothing is 4. So 440 pans were not returned. Let's do one more. So Julio and Scott played 6 card games and 4 computer games today. How many hours did they play games? So if Julio and Scott played 6 card games and 4 computer games today, we have to figure out how many hours they played games, okay? So let's say Julio and Scott played card games. Let's say they played card games for, I don't know, 2 hours. So I'm gonna say Julio and Scott played 6 card games for 2 hours. And then let's say they played computer games for another 1 hour. And played computer games for 1 hour. How many hours did they play games? Now I can figure it out because they didn't tell us how many hours they were spending. I had to add that information in. So how many hours did they play games? I can say 2 hours plus 1 hour is 3 whole hours playing games. How fun. Okay, friends, I hope this was helpful to solve PMT 5.6 on Think Central for solving problems with extra information. So remember, you're looking for word problems that have information you can cross out that you don't need. You're also looking for word problems that might have hidden information. So a lot of times you're looking for words like weeks, days. You have to think about how many legs an animal or a person has if we're talking about pairs of shoes or pairs of horseshoes. Dozen means 12. These ones down here, it might involve money, so quarters, dimes. All of that is going to help you solve these problems. And then lastly, not enough information. So sometimes it doesn't have all that you need to solve a problem. So you need to say, I need to know this. So make sure that you are underlining the question they're asking you. Go back and reread it and figure out what you don't have that you need. And if you would like more practice, if this is a little bit challenging for you, please do in your math workbook, page 223. It talks about crossing out any extra information or circling hidden information and then solving problems. and then rewriting word problems. So this might be super, super helpful for you to really, really get this down. Okay, so again, that's page 223 in your math workbook. I hope this was helpful for all of you. I hope you have a great rest of your Monday, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I miss you all. Okay, bye you guys.